It's coronavirus hiatus week number 6 here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. But we've got a great show coming up for you today. DC United midfielder Julian Gressel is going to be joining us here in just over 10 minutes. But until then, we'll catch up with all of the... Well, there was a lot this week, guys. But as usual, I've got Sam Castor, Michael Black, and Joshua Morgan joining us on the call this week. How are you guys?
Doing good, living the dream.
Hanging in there, I can assume.
Being optimistic, you know.
Yeah, so in the world of optimism, you'll have to bring us up a bit here, Sam, because the news just yesterday, Major League Soccer says that the doors are going to be closed at least until June 8th on games at all, but it sounds like potentially all summer, if not even longer, when matches start. At this point, it's a foregone conclusion they're going to be behind closed doors. You know, we've talked a bit about that over the last few weeks, but I think for a while, the players in particular were holding out hope that wouldn't be the case, but I think that's our reality now.
Yeah, it's really weird that June 8th really doesn't surprise me. We talked a little bit last show about, it's a lot more complicated than just each individual city lifting their restrictions. It has to be the entire country has lifted their restrictions, but for us in DC, at least Virginia, a long time ago said that their restrictions were going to be until the beginning of June. So it's not really surprising, and it's also just kind of really disheartening that I think you're right. I think the reality is that it's probably going to be behind closed doors, and what that means, for TV rights. And, there was some chatter on Twitter about potentially overseas them kind of pumping in fans cheering just to kind of get that atmosphere going, and what that looks like. I don't know. I mean, it's evolving every day, so we'll see.
I appreciate that at least we've got kind of a better idea of what the timeline is. June 8th seems like a long way away, but trying to go week by week or anything shorter than that, I think at least that June 8th deadline for when they're aiming to come back to it gives us a chance to at least figure out what the new normal is. I mean, nothing about this year is ever going to be completely normal, but hopefully, at least as we get closer to June 8th, we'll have some hope about coming back in. The numbers all over the place, and we're not going to talk about coronavirus stats or anything like that, but I think we're all hopeful that we get back to the new normal as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad, and we talk about it all the time, and we talk about it off there, and I'm sure everyone's talking about it right now. So I think we can kind of pivot to some of the other actual DC United news we have to talk about. Josh, are you going to take that?
Yeah, it's been brewing for a little bit now. Chris Durkin's been over on loan, and it has come out this past week that he's been sold, or at least the principal terms of the agreement have been, agreed upon. It looks like 1.4 million total, which is a little bit less than we were hoping for him. I think DC United reportedly wanted about 2 million at least for him, but it's hard in this environment to get a full value for a player. There is, I saw that it was reported by Diop that there's a 25% sell-on fee, which I think is huge. You always want that on young players, because eventually down the line, Durkin will go to another club, and if he keeps on this trajectory, he won't be leaving on a free. Someone will eventually want him from that club. No club's going to let him walk. Like, we've seen some clubs do to players. I'm not going to call out. I know I'm a little upset about Kosa walking on free, but yeah, I don't think Durkin will ever leave a club for free. So it's big that we got that 25% in there. And we're all a little bit sad, right? Because we love Durkin. He was a solid, great potential player from the area. I remember going to an away game down in Atlanta, and the DC United supporters are like way up in the 300s in Atlanta, but down below us, you could see like 2 rows of Durkin jerseys, and they would turn back to us and like wave and all that. That was so nice to see them. I like bumped into them after the game, so it was super nice to like have these homegrown players and see them and interact with their families and their friends and have them part of the club.
Yeah, I think it's heartbreaking. We're not going to see him at Audi Field anytime soon. our little baby Durkin, our homegrown player who's doing big things. I'm definitely gonna miss seeing him, but I think you're right. I think you have to look at the long term and the growth of the player, and even just like the experience of going international and playing against all these different clubs. I think that's gonna do a lot for him. Playing in different environments. Obviously, every league has kind of their own style of play. So the fact that Chris is getting all these different experience, or now 2 different experiences. I think it's just going to be beneficial to his development, and it's going to be exciting to see what he does down the road.
Yeah, to me, it's interesting because now it gives us the opportunity to really. Of course, we're rooting for him to succeed all along, but like now, I'm a huge Centurion fan, right? Like I want the team to do well. I want Durkin to do well, mainly because hopefully a couple years from now, Bayern or somebody comes in and buys him for like 30 or 40 million euros, and DC United's just drowned in that sweet sell-on fee.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, but we've seen this as well. Bill Hamid went to a Belgian or a Denmark team, a team in Denmark. But sometimes these players go over there and it doesn't work out, but they get huge amounts of experience. And so Durkin's already with the team that he's been with for a while on loan. He scored a goal with them on his birthday, which was awesome. But if it doesn't work out, he'll be a better player for it. He'll get that experience, and then he can still come home and play for DC United. I hope DC United aren't closing any doors, and it seems like they did right by the players. So maybe we'll see Durkin in a black and red again.
Or I'd like.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, bye.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you're exactly right. You've got to give the player the opportunity, and so many players want to scratch that European itch. The spot where MLS is as a league, we're still not quite at that upper echelon. And if getting to Europe is the opportunity for them to make that jump, then more power to them. For me, I think my favorite Durkin experience was him last year during the Colorado Rapids game, where we basically rolled out a team that was hoping for a tie. I think is a charitable way to put it. He came out and scored a goal, really energized the squad, and it was quite the event there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm excited to also see him in the red, white, and blue. He's been getting call-ups for the youth national teams, and no matter what team he's playing for, it's just so much fun to watch him play those like long balls all the way across the field that just like drop on his player's foot. And that's something you can't teach. Like that's such natural talent to be able to play such long balls with such accuracy so consistently. I'm again just excited to see what he does with more experience that he has, and potentially one day cracking into that senior national team, and then getting to cheer when they come and play at Audi Field, and getting the whole fan base kind of cheering for him extra hard because this is where he started.
Yeah, and with his performance for this team, and getting the opportunity to go to Europe, especially as a young player, it's great. He was somewhat surplus to requirements here in DC with the depth we've got at that center defensive mid position. But I would like to see the team find a way to get another young player in, hopefully follow that same arc, because right now we're starting to get a little bit long in the tooth there, and certainly need to make sure we keep building and don't say it's just a one and done and happy with where we're at.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple guys. I think Ring from the academy trained with the team during preseason. I think he's a midfielder. I know Moses Simon is a midfielder, maybe not as defensive minded as Durkin was, but I think we have some pieces in play that are moving up. And that leads us to like another big piece of news this week is that the U.S. Soccer Federation is the DA program died. Which, if you don't know, it was like a bunch of youth programs throughout the country. It looks like literally the same day MLS announced that they're starting their own academy programs. So they're stepping in and filling that void. Whether that's a good thing for youth development in the country or not, I don't have the experience or the knowledge to chime in there, but it looks like MLS will continue to make steps and take steps in the youth development. So that's exciting, and maybe it'll lead to more Durkins.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it will. It wasn't just the same day. I'm pretty sure it was like 30 minutes later that announcement was made. So, there was obviously some communication between the two organizations about what was happening in the situation. And again, the optimistic side of me is going to say that That was U.S. Soccer kind of doing what they needed to do for the organization, but also knowing that youth development is so important, kind of making sure that there was a fallback for these youth players. I don't know what that's going to mean for, the cities that don't have MLS teams. I don't know what that's going to mean for, female players. I have done no reading on this. I kind of thought about it when I read the article, and then I had to get back to work this week. I don't know if just female players are going to start, being incorporated, or they're going to have to look to their teams, or if, I just don't know. Is this a step towards MLS getting female teams? These are all the things I thought about literally while you're reading that article. But I'd love to do more research about it, and I'd just love to see how it all unfolds. So I guess we'll see. I did see, did you all see though that MLS put out those videos, those like coaching videos for
train MLS.
Yeah, it was like for players of all ages and skill, and they go basically from beginner to advanced. They go through, skills that you can practice in 30 seconds to like longer formal drills. So I thought that was a really cool, very proactive thing for them to do.
That's the reason John's been running so much the past few days. Thanks, this quarantine time, it's time for his pro career to take off.
I did see the email that the league sent out about like, here's some things you could do, to train like Major League Soccer players. And I was like, maybe I should start doing this because this quarantine life is not helping my health.
John, I think you should stick to podcasting. I think you're doing all right at that. And I think my thing with the Development Academy and all the different approaches they try out in youth is you've got to pick something and go with it. I think ultimately you're going to need to rely on the clubs to get the talent and develop it, but you have to have support from the national federation, whether that's pumping money into the clubs programs or whatever they're doing to grow the game. You need to find something to commit to it rather than it feels like we change our model every couple of years, and unfortunately that's not really long enough to develop a player all the way through to trying to eventually hit those pro first teams and living the dream of getting to the Stars and Stripes too. So
yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I think you're right. I think that, U.S. soccer has done a lot of different things. And you kind of saw that, right, in the fact that we haven't made Olympics in, several cycles. We haven't, I don't know, we had this whole, like, lost generation that a lot of people are saying is the reason we didn't make the past World Cup. So, yeah, you're right. I think it'll be interesting. I hate that, with everything else that's going on, we're just going to have to wait and see with this one. But I think, we're just going to have to wait and see with this one. But hopefully we'll see a lot more kids coming out of DC. And, we'll just have a lot more homegrown talent, whether they're playing for DC United or otherwise, that we can all get behind. But, I do think that we need to hop on these train like MLS player videos and up our Monday night league skills.
We definitely need a lot of growth there, and you got to change in the model of how MLS does it too. Obviously we're excited that Loudon has become an option for DC United, and a lot of MLS teams have those kind of second tier teams as a chance to funnel talent coming up. We've shifted away from the kind of traditional American model of solely on the draft. But our guest tonight is somebody who was drafted and has had success there. So I guess it's really on the teams to focus on their talent acquisition, do the best they can with that, and make a success from it.
Right. That was one of the arguments that I heard from this new structure, is that high school soccer and then by extension college soccer might be of more importance if there's less clubs out there with a direct path to pro. And you don't want to see that in this country. We want more paths to pros. We need more soccer players to have better soccer players, I think. But maybe that puts the emphasis back on the college game. We can do something better there.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out, and hopefully that's something that between Major League Soccer and the U.S. Soccer Federation, they can get sorted. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw it to break. Might be a bit of a longer break. We're going to have to switch over some comms here, and then we will bring on DC United midfielder Julian Gressel. So stick with us here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken.
The bad news is that everyone is a potential victim. But the good news is that everyone is a potential solution. Sensitize the masses to sanitize. Keep a social distance and quarantine. Stop!
The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted.
Omulwadde wa corona temubuzanyisa bange.
Kila mtu must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted. Discipline and personal hygiene, and make sure you regularly wash your hands. Keep a distance from everyone. Report anything like a symptom. Serious fever is a symptom. Dry cough is a symptom. Walkway tamula is a symptom. Itchy eyes and flu is a symptom.
Abo b'obulwadde bwekuuma obutabusiiga bwejjemu batannalwala olaga omwoyo gw'eggwanga olabira ku itale abasinga bafudde okuwebala kisingako obujjanjaba. The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted.
Omulwadde wa corona temubuzanyisa bange.
Kila mtu must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted.
Coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Find Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Casts the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 90 seconds.
Testing.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
Well, we're back here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and we are pleased to be joined by Julian Gressel, DC United midfielder. Julian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, we're super excited to have you here, and we appreciate you bearing with us as we figure out how to do the show virtually under these crazy times. So first thing, how are you holding up with all the COVID-19 quarantine orders right now, especially moving to the district just not too long ago?
Yeah, we're doing good. Me and my family, my wife and the dog, we're all doing good. I'm actually pretty happy that we got the move over with before it all kind of started. So we basically moved in completely before the first game, actually. So the first few weeks of this quarantine stuff were nice to set up the place a bit more and unbox some boxes. Yeah, it was all right. We're doing all right. We're trying to cope with it, obviously, as best as we can. And yeah, I don't know. We'll just kind of go day by day here, see how it continues.
Yeah, it looks like from your social media, you've been trying to take advantage of being outside as much as possible and exploring DC. Have you found any kind of favorite parts of DC yet?
I mean, we live in Navy Yard, so we live pretty close. You walk 5 minutes to the water and 5 minutes to the Capitol. So it's a nice spot where we like to take the dog out and like to walk. So as the weather permitted, we should do that at least for half an hour a day. So we like to have a little loop right around the Capitol, just a little half hour, 45-minute loop. That we like to do, and yeah, I mean, there's some nice spots. I've been going on some runs. I'm in different directions, trying to explore a bit as best as I can without getting lost, and still getting my workout in. But yeah, it's been good. I think we've made the best of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Is there anything that you're looking forward to experiencing in DC once these restrictions get lifted?
I was actually really excited to do like all the museums at the National Mall, which will be right in front of our door here. But I've done them once before, and then I was really intrigued. And I think I was about like 16 or so. And it'd be really nice to go back there and really explore it again. My wife has never done it, so that was something touristy, I guess, to really do. But I hope that we can still do that later this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. We got the chance to talk to Ben Olsen this past week, and he joked about how people are taking some artistic liberty with their facial hair during this time. You got a quarantine beard going, or?
Yeah, I'm trying. My beard isn't really cooperating as I want it to. But yeah, I'm letting it grow as of now. We'll see how long my wife will let me keep doing that. But my hair is getting back to those stages when I was 16, 17, when I had Justin Bieber hair. So that I might have to do something about that very soon. But we'll kind of see how much longer this goes on.
We definitely understand the facial hair struggles. I don't think the facial hair game's pretty strong on this show either.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just don't really know what to do. It's just, I guess, who I am.
Yeah, and I think obviously we're all excited and looking forward to seeing you back out there with the black and red as soon as possible. What are your thoughts on trying to bring the league back without fans? It seems like that may be the reality we're dealing with. Is that going to be a problem for you? How does that change the experience when you step out in the field for DC United?
It changes, it definitely does. But I think at this point, honestly, I think even the fans would take games without fans over no games at all. I don't know. I guess that's a question for you guys, but I think I guess I'm a sports fan. I see myself as a sports fan. I watch a lot of sports, not just soccer. I just miss it so much, just turn the TV on, turn it to whatever channel it is, and then just watch sports, no matter if it's a really amazing game or not. And to not have that, I think, is a big loss for all of us. And yeah, but we'll kind of see how it continues. I think the league is trying to do everything they possibly can to get us back playing, to get games back, and then as much as they want it with fans, obviously that's preferred. We want that as well, but ultimately it's their decision, and we just kind of have to see what they come up with. So we'll see what happens, and we're just here to kind of start playing again. I'm over this, to be honest with you.
Well, we were right there with you. Definitely you're to feel back out there. Is there anything that the league or the team can do to kind of make it a little bit less weird? We've heard some leagues in Europe are talking about piping and crowd noise or putting pictures of the fans in the stands. You think any of that will help, or is it just going to be strange either way?
I think that would I don't know. I think it would be strange either way. There's no fans, and you look up and there's a bunch of cardboard or just some fake noise. Like, I'd rather just have the whole thing, just that be it, and then be all right with it. I think that's the best way for us to kind of go through those games if we have to. But like I said, we'll see what happens, and we'll hopefully be able to produce and play good either way.
Yeah, we definitely feel your pain without any sports right now. As a huge sports fan myself, you mentioned that you like a lot of different sports. Are there any leagues or any world football teams that you're a particularly big fan of?
I mean, you can ask my wife. I turn on at least one sports. If there's a game on TV, I usually have it on. If she doesn't want to watch something else, but I like watching football, American football. I like watching basketball. I'm basically don't discriminate. I like watching any type of sport. So yeah, basketball and football are probably the two favorite ones. And then golf. I'm a big golfer myself, so my wife absolutely hates watching golf, so that's not on TV a lot. But yeah, it's yeah, just trying to cope and trying to get through this time without any live sports. But some of those reruns and some of those replayed games are definitely nice to watch as well.
I think you had a golf tournament when you were down in Atlanta. Have you had a chance to play golf since you've been up here? I guess.
Actually managed to get out with Steve Birnbaum for one round before full quarantine happened when we got back from preseason. During one of the first couple of weeks there, we played around, and yeah, I've actually gone out since. I think the golf course is still open in Virginia, so I managed to get out on one of the nicer days and just try and pass the time a bit differently. It's nice I like going golfing because it really gives you a way to get away from everything and just not worry about anything for 4 hours or however long you stay out there. So it's really a nice way to kind of get away from reality a bit in that sense.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those sports that I think we're going to be able to come back to sooner rather than later, which will be exciting. Shifting the conversation a bit, Julian, to your career, I'm definitely very interested to hear about your experience at Providence in the Big East, right? And I'm very curious, what made you choose to attend college in the United States and play at the collegiate level instead of furthering your professional career in Germany?
Yeah, so I was basically at a time in Germany where it was I had to make a choice, and I was playing at the highest amateur division over there, and I was finishing high school, so I wanted to continue studying for myself. I knew that was very important to me and my family, and it would have been really hard to combine both, soccer, even at the highest amateur division, and school at the same time. So I looked for ways to kind of make that both work, and I knew I had a past experience. I did an exchange year in the US before, so I kind of knew what I would get myself into and how it was over here. So I thought that it was the best way for me to really step out of my comfort zone, develop myself, get a good education, and keep playing at a high enough level to then potentially fulfill my dream of becoming a professional soccer player. And yeah, it worked out as I dreamed of. I mean, it was perfect. Providence was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and the coaches there, and then the whole team, the whole school did a great job of kind of preparing me for what's next. And luckily, then I went on to get drafted.
Yeah, speaking of you getting drafted and kind of really being set up for success in MLS, you've really played all over the field. It seems like you can kind of step into any position. Do you have any positions that you enjoy playing during certain games, or kind of an overall favorite contribution you get to give in a certain position?
Not really, to be honest. I've always said that, and I know it always sounds weird, but I think the game is obviously different positions demand different things from you as a player. So it's really just a mindset thing of okay, this game, I need to be this guy or this player or whatever it is. But I like playing as a right winger just as much as I like as a center mid or as an attacking center mid or as a right back, even if that is the case. I don't really care, as weird as that sounds. So wherever Ben thinks I can contribute the most to the team and to the game, then that's where he's going to put me, and I'm fine with that. I've conveyed that message to him from the very first conversation that we had, and I think that he's gotten to know me as that type of guy as well.
Yeah, we've had a couple of type of guys like that on DC United. We're appreciative to have you here now, but it kind of brings a different role because you could be in a different position each week.
how do you keep yourself ready to contribute no matter what your position is?
Yeah, I mean, usually we prepare ourselves for games, right? It's not like I never go blind into a game and be like, oh, I wonder where I played today. It's just more of like on a weekly dialogue basis with the team and what the coaches see and what they have in mind for the next game, where they can explain their thinking and I can explain my thinking, and then they ultimately make the decision. But yeah, that's just kind of how it's been over the past ever since I got here, really. It's been a really good process in that sense, where it was just an open dialogue and open conversations, trying to figure different things out. I know that we have, like you said, a lot of guys that can play in different roles, so it definitely takes a bit of time to really find the best structure and what works best for the team and for the whole squad, and how guys complement each other and stuff. So, but again, the dialogue has been great. The communication with the coaching staff and us players has been great. And I think we were on a really good track, to be honest, before this whole quarantine happened.
Speaking of kind of your role in the team and meeting the opportunities that are presented to you, we've noticed that you've been taking a lot of the free kicks, and we've seen your kind of crazy crosses from the sides. I believe you even assisted on the corner kick that Russell Knaus scored against the Rapids. Are we going to see you taking free kicks more in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the coaching staff's idea as of now. If I don't keep messing up, I guess. But yeah, no, they've told me that from the start. I think Wayne Rooney was taking them mostly last year. So they're looking for a new guy to come in. Obviously, we have different guys that can take it in certain moments, but that was a message from the coaching staff that I've gotten from the start, that I would be pretty set on taking set pieces, and yeah, I mean, I practice them, with their message like that. We practice them and we go through different things, so it's definitely something I don't shy away from, and I'm pretty happy to do.
So we're live here with Julian Gressel of DC United here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. If you've got questions for Julian, go ahead and send them in using the hashtag Tried and True DCU. Julian, one of my questions for you here, you obviously flew out of the gate in your MLS career here, and we're thrilled to have you now with the black and red just a little bit further north than Atlanta. What do your long-term club aspirations look like? I mean, do you hope to return to Europe someday down the road? Are you enjoying life here in MLS and just want to win some more silverware here with the black and red? What's it look like for you?
I enjoy life here in the U.S. I've always had, and I've always had maybe half an eye look over to Europe, and especially Germany, just because I grew up there, and I watched the Bundesliga, every weekend, and then you imagine yourself playing there, and that dream never really goes away from you, and it never really stops. So yeah, if the right opportunity will present itself, I would still be happy to do that, but it has to be the right thing, and at this point, it has to take something big, I think, where I obviously just signed a new contract here with DC, and I'm happy to be here. I'm excited for this new chapter in my career. I'm 26, so I'm not the youngest anymore, where teams in Europe aren't really looking, or some teams aren't really looking at that type of player, especially to the United States, unfortunately. For whatever reason, they're more looking at younger players, but like I said, it would have to be the right thing for me to go back to Europe. But I'm happy here, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to stay, and then fulfill my contract, and then we'll kind of see what happens.
Well, I think we were all kind of geeking out, love hearing you talk about how you love being at DC, and we love having you here, and it's great to hear that you're kind of here for the long term. And kind of speaking of being in the U.S., I believe you've mentioned in other interviews that you might also be keeping half an eye looking at the United States men's national team. Are you looking at that in the future too?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same message as what I've been saying. It's just a time matter. There's nothing really I can do at the moment other than just keep playing my part on the field. I'm eligible to become, I think, a U.S. citizen in 2 years or something. I don't actually know exactly when that would be, but once that comes closer, and if that was still a possibility for me to step into that role with the national team, that it would be an honor. But we have to get there first. So we'll have to wait and see kind of how the next 2 years play out, and what position we're in after that. But yeah, it's something that has crossed my mind and that I've obviously thought about, because I've also gotten asked about it. But yeah, we'll kind of see how it continues and see where it goes in a couple years.
Yeah, we'd love to see you in 2022. I think there's a big tournament going on. Hopefully the U.S. will be in. Coming back to DC, we have a couple. We have more than a couple. We have quite a few Atlanta United players in the past couple of years. How's it been reuniting with Yamil?
It's actually been really good. Yamil he was a great guy in Atlanta. And he's still a great guy that he was back then. I think his English got a lot better from back then, so that's really nice, where I can really speak to him. We speak a lot about guys that he's still in touch with in Atlanta, and guys that I'm still in touch with there. So it's nice. It's definitely nice to have reconnected with him and be on the same team as him now. I obviously know him pretty well as a player because we played together for a year there. And yeah, I'm excited, to get on the field with him. I know he obviously had a bit of an injury, so it took him a bit to get going. But yeah, once we start back up, that's definitely one of the players I look forward to playing together a lot.
Yeah, we know you've only been here for just a little bit, really, but are there any players you've connected with in particular? We've heard that you've been keeping Russell's German up to date, or you've been testing them.
Yeah, no, that was one of the first things some teammates said. It's like, oh, look, Russ, now you have somebody else to speak German too. Because I guess last year he had Sultan Stieber a bit to speak with, and Gordon Wild was here, so he needed somebody else, and I guess that's me now. But yeah, Russ has been a great guy. It's funny because in Atlanta I never really had somebody kind of in the stage of my career and my life that really compared to me, where I'm married, no kids yet, pretty much settled down, and Russ is kind of that type of guy. He's exactly like us in the same stage of life, so it was an easy connection. I've actually talked to him even before the trade happened a bit through social media, so we kind of knew each other in that sense. So that was easy. And yeah, I mean, I've connected with Steve Birnbaum. I just did the interview with him the other day. Actually, that was fun. And yeah, I mean, all the guys, to be honest with you, are great guys. I'm happy to be in that locker room, and it's been nothing but a lot of fun to work with them, to share the field with them, and yeah, try and get better as a team and try and win games.
No, it definitely seems like a pretty tight-knit group, and hopefully you guys will all be back together soon to kind of continue to build those relationships. One of the things off the field that you kind of mentioned there, we were joking earlier this week. I think our show's officially made it big now that we have players launching their own podcast just one day before coming on our show. So congratulations on the Gressel Special, and what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was just an idea that the team had brought, the club, the social department of the club had brought to the team, and if some players were interested in it, and I always like doing that kind of stuff. Who knows, maybe that's in my future after my soccer career as well. But yeah, I didn't want to pass up on that opportunity to kind of get to know, obviously, my teammates a bit more, and then explore a bit more into the fan base, and then kind of have the fans get to know me a bit more. I know I'm a new player here, so I hope that yeah, the fans will get to know me a bit more through this as well, not just the guests that I have on. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of speak a bit more to some teammates, not just about soccer, but about life and different things that happen, maybe on road trips or whatever it is. But then also I'm excited to maybe branch that out a bit and speak to some other guys that I've gotten to know around the league, guys that I've played against in college that are now in MLS, maybe some retired players that I've obviously known from my Atlanta time. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of start it and kind of see where it goes.
Yeah, I think you've got at least 4 listeners here on the show now, so look forward to seeing what you come out with in the future.
I appreciate it.
Our last question for you, and this is a pitch we ask from all of your fellow teammates, so asking Griffin Yao how he responded to this question. But in 30 seconds, can you explain to us why we should buy your jersey?
Oh man, it's like a sales pitch here. Damn it. No, I'm buy my jersey or not. I'm the guy that I am. I'm a guy that I'm here right now with you guys on the phone. Like, I'm not changing. And I'm excited to be here. Like I said earlier, I'm excited to be a DC United player. I'm also excited to be here long term. I'm not looking to leave again anytime soon, and I'm excited to try and bring the great history that this club has had to bring back into the future, and then try and win some silverware. And I guess I don't really know if you can support some of the teammates as well if they really need to see their names on the back, but of those jerseys in the stands. But I know that you hear that the fans are here to support all of us, and I'm just excited to be here as a DC United player.
No, we love to hear it, and I can tell you that one of the four of us, Joshua Morgan, already owns your jersey. I think he bought it the second the signing was announced. So we're all four of us are super excited to see you here in the black and red, and we can't wait to see you back on the field. So thanks so much for spending some time on your Saturday night with us, Julian. We really appreciate you being on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we're going to throw it to break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about World Cup qualifying changes potentially for the Stars and Stripes, and we'll be right back here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Fine, Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Casts the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 90 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
It's Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and we are back after a great conversation with Julian Gressel. It's super cool to have him on the show, and I don't know, guys, he's definitely in my running for what name's going to go back on the back of the jersey I eventually buy this year. Joshua, I know you're way ahead of me.
Yeah, it was maybe the day after he was signed. Give me a break. But yeah,
I assume the club shop was closed. The day it was announced. It's just too late in the day, or
Literally exactly that. Yes.
I like this pitch. It was a little laissez faire. If you want to, go ahead, or if you want to get someone else, that's fine too.
I mean, it was like, I don't know. I thought it was a really good pitch. Again, it wasn't buy my jersey because it was a lot about the team, and especially as being a new player, he was still able to touch on this team's history, and kind of the heartbeat of the team, and how we play and what this club is hoping to do in the future, and bringing back all that glory we had at the very beginning of the season. And I thought that in and of itself was a pitch that he's embraced that so quickly.
Yeah,
I might line up for the 2022 U.S. Men's National Team jersey if all the things go. He said 2 years. He might make it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. We need to talk about potentially some of the changes in qualifying. But when he said that, I messaged you guys on the side and said, for probably the only time I'll ever say this, thank God the Qatar World Cup is in December, because that just gives us a little more time to get the green card process.
Swoop in, man. It's like a month before the tournament. We're all like, call him up. He's on the roster.
We're just, like it'll be time, and hope to God we qualify. That's a whole nother topic. But we'll name just like one player shy in the provisional roster. I'll be like, what is the U.S. doing? And then Gressel just kind of lands before the opener. So it will be interesting to see. World Cup qualifying was supposed to begin in earnest around the world very, very soon. When you look at the CONCACAF international schedule, they've got Nations League playoffs. I think that the semis and the final were supposed to be played in June. That's probably going to have to get pushed back. And then with the new format to begin with this year, it's going to be really interesting in CONCACAF because they basically said, hey, the top 6 teams based on the FIFA rankings go directly to the Hex, which is laughable at best. But then now they're thinking about making some serious tweaks because the last couple international windows have been postponed, right? And so some of the teams like Canada, for example, that were like really close, they beat the U.S. not too long ago. They were getting close to breaking into that top 6, and now they're out of games. And so they're thinking that potentially that's unfair to some of those teams. So it sounds like all the cards are on the table here. And we heard potentially as big as like a 10-team, well, it wouldn't be a Hex, but a 10-team kind of round-robin thing similar to what they do in South America. Guys, one, what do we do, and what do we hope they do?
I hope they play all the soccer because really that's all we need right now, right?
Yeah, it was huge for the Canada. I was watching that because they had those friendlies against us where they pulled off that one win and then we beat them by a bigger margin.
Oh, those were Nations League games, my friend.
But they counted for the FIFA rankings, and so Canada dropped down because of those Nation League games. This new tournament they set up. So
massive competition.
They were real, but it essentially knocked them out of the World Cup qualifying. And so they were counting on these friendlies. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I want Canada to make it, just for more chaos, right? Because they showed they can beat us. Maybe they can beat Mexico, and that would just be hilarious.
And I think that you're going to get a strange situation anyway, because we're all expecting that they're going to expand the field for the 2026 World Cup. So this may be the last time that you have to have a qualifying in the way that we've seen it for the last few decades. So for me, I think I've got mixed feelings. As a U.S. partisan, I'd love to see us have as straightforward a road as possible, and that's probably just playing your standard Hex. And the teams that didn't get in the position, they can complain about the rankings all they want. But I think as a soccer purist, I'd like to see as many games as possible, get as many teams involved as possible, and then hopefully your quality rises to the top, because Lord knows we need to make the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think though, like, just like all this league play that we've been talking about, it's really just going to come down to like what's realistically possible in the time frames that are given. South America kind of said they wanted to start back up in September, but here in North America, we were like, nope, I really don't think that's realistic. So, you have different parts of the world. I mean, we're all in the same hemisphere, kind of saying completely opposite things. So I don't even know. It's just so hard to speculate. I think anything is really possible, right?
I mean, you guys know I'm here for away days, so I'm looking for the scenario that involves Canada making it. Jamaica, I'm interested in going to. I want to go to Mexico away this year. Costa Rica, would be a fun one. There's definitely some countries that I'm potentially less interested in going to. So we'll see how this shakes out and what the options are for the U.S.
John's just saving all the money that he would be spending on game days, both in the stadium and then post game. He's putting out all that money in the bank, and he's just going to be on the road for like 4 months straight, just watching every single soccer game he can, I think.
On a personal note, I definitely drove myself into the ground at the end of the last calendar year and like early January this year with all the travel. I promise when this is over, I will never again complain about being tired from travel, because I would do anything to go on the road to watch a soccer game right now.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a bunch of them. Today should have been Nashville, and I know that I don't think anyone in this group was able to go, but it's still heartbreaking looking at it and being like, oh, we should have gone. Sorry, I digress, but...
One of the things we do need to talk about, though, when we talk about World Cup qualifying is what might that 2022 roster look like for the U.S. I mean, we joke, but we really hope that Julian Gressel eventually is in play there, but Major League Soccer put out an interesting article about who they thought would be in it, and the roster actually looked kind of fun. There's some potential DC United players involved. Obviously, Paul Arriola has been in the picture prior to his knee injury. Bill Hamid was recently in camp, which is exciting. Russell Canals, and we've talked, maybe Julian Gressel. So, but what does the roster potentially look like in just a couple years?
Man, I really hope some of these young guys keep breaking through. We got to see the Weston McKennie hat trick at Audi Field, and that was awesome. I'm like partial to him now because that's the first hat trick I've seen in a long time. So yeah, I hope it's Adams. Unfortunately, he's with the other team, Energy Drink FC. But I hope these guys keep busting forward and keep progressing. I want to see an under 25 squad basically with Sargent and Pomacul and McKinney and Adams and Dest, all those guys, and Pulisic. I think he'll be over 25 by then. But it's a young squad, and I just in 2 years they could progress so much. But it could also flatten out in that time. So it'll be interesting to see. We don't have that veteran core that I feel like we've come to a lot of World Cups with.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I feel like last World Cup round when we were here, we all assumed that we'd be going to the World Cup. But I think everybody kind of knew what that roster was going to look like. I think there were, the couple question marks of the guys on the fringe, but, the starting lineup was basically set. But, prior to this all going down, I feel like every couple months it was like a new player was eligible. Like we got Dest, he decided to commit to the U.S. So I feel like, there's just so much happening with this team right now that's super exciting. And you're right, there are so many young guys to look forward to. I was looking at some of the roster predictions, and it was shocking to me that Jordan Morris is 28 now. I still think of him as like the young kid who is going to break through and, really make it in this team. But he's so much older than, I had realized. He's not kind of that young guy anymore. So it's really fun to watch everything happen.
I think that was their
his projected age. You're right.
So he will be 28, which I guess would make him one of the older guys. But I feel like I haven't even seen J-Mo with the team really. I'm kind of dying to see the U.S. men's national team go head to head. We had that stretch where we played the Netherlands, and I know we were supposed to, but it was canceled because of the COVID-19. But I've seen this team beat Canada and Jamaica in the past few months. I want to see them knock off some of these big guys and see these young guys perform at a high level.
They did perform at a high level prior to the World Cup, when we played that friendly against France. That was an amazing game. Our young players, really stepped up and did good things during that game. And, France went on to win the World Cup. Obviously you could argue that it was, their friendlies leading up to the World Cup. So, we were playing a bunch of kids. How friendly were they initially? Or how seriously were they initially playing that game? But as that game went on, you could tell they were getting frustrated that a couple 20-something-year-old kids were really putting the pressure on. So you're right, it will be really fun to see us play really significant games soon.
Yeah, and it's really tough. Go ahead, Black.
No, I was going to say, I agree that I think you're definitely going to see a youth movement. And, I think a lot of people kind of tuned out on the national team after the debacle in Trinidad. And, as we come into another qualifying cycle and then hopefully playing games in another World Cup, the roster is going to look significantly different. And I know we want results from every cup, but I think all of us have to have our eyes on that longer term, 2026, when the U.S. is going to be hosting. That's really when we're going to have to put up a huge performance. Obviously, it's unacceptable for us not to qualify for the World Cup. But, wow, I'm already excited about that month or so come 2026.
No, that's going to be incredible. And one of the things that, I totally agree. I think that's one of the most exciting parts about building this youth core right now. We should have actually been just wrapping up a couple weeks ago, I think, Olympic qualifying for CONCACAF, and it was going to be a lot of fun to see how that team did. I don't know that they were projected to make it. I think they were going to have a tough road, but those are the folks that you expect to see kind of in the core in 2022, and then those are the guys who are really, no kidding, going to be the leaders on this team in that 2026 time frame when, I think regardless of how much leave I have left, I'm taking that entire World Cup off to just go watch soccer. But looking at some of the projections for the roster in 2022, I think the old guys, if you will, the veterans who will be on this team. You look at a guy like a Michael Bradley and a Josie Altidore, they might still be clinging around, and they could be in that category of you're bringing these guys for that leadership and not necessarily playing as much.
I think it's those two players are so interesting because they're just within the fan base. Like, people feel so strongly about them, right? And perhaps rightfully so, because you're right, they're so much older, but you have that solid group that's like, show me someone who is better than Michael Bradley in the middle of the field, show me someone who can score the way Josie can. And the last time we were in the World Cup, like, no one will ever tell me that Josie going down with that hamstring injury didn't change the entire trajectory of how our team plays. So there's something to be said that he brings something like special to the team, but also, I mean, you're right, are we just aging out of those players, and do we need to adapt and start playing a different way?
No, stop. We cannot be relying on Michael Bradley or Josie Altidore in 2022. Josie Altidore hasn't played a full season, I'm pretty sure, since that World Cup.
And Toronto still relies on him, and like, he's profit in that. Listen, I'm not in their camp, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate right now.
Michael Bradley is like Pirlo at NYCFC. Like, he's like barely even trying. He just sits back in front of the back line and sprays passes, but he's not playing as a midfielder.
Well, just remember, he might not be starting in the 2022 World Cup, but could he make the roster and be there for that veteran
I'd rather have a Julian Green type player take his spot.
Yeah.
Pull a Donovan on him and sub him for the new.
I was just about to say, I am not one of those people who thinks that it's worth like risking a roster spot just to like bring in that quote unquote experience. I understand that experience is like super important, but there are other people who can contribute that in other ways. And like, I was not sad at all when Landon Donovan didn't make that roster, because realistically he was not playing a whole bunch, and there were other players on that team that contributed what everyone thought he could contribute. Yep, come at me, Black. Come at me with that comment.
I mean, Julian scored, so she's right?
Yeah, I am right, actually. He scored with like one of his first touches ever in World Cup.
I think he scored the most recent U.S. Men's World Cup goal.
At the time, more than Rooney, right? So.
You cannot tell me that there was not one other person on the roster they could have dropped to bring in Landon for that team. I think that was a travesty, and it's something that was the beginning of the end for the Jurgen Klinsmann era.
I don't disagree with that necessarily, but along those lines, then does Michael Bradley need to be on the 2022 roster?
I think you got to look at the midfield.
I mean, he just made that argument for Landon Donovan, right? Now he's saying that the same doesn't apply to Michael Bradley. Why? Because Michael Bradley didn't score the flashy goals in the big moments. He did more of the defensive work, so, fans don't have that, like, hero worship opinion about him.
I do remember an awesome Bradley goal away to Mexico in the last Hex.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it feels a lot like the same argument for just different types of players, really.
Hopefully we have all the prospects in 2022. We have all the momentum, and it's not even close. Like, McKinney's playing out of the world, so it doesn't matter who's back in this.
Maybe Chris Durkin beats out Michael Bradley for the roster spot.
Yes, I'm here for that. Yeah, for the record, Sam is not Team Michael Bradley. I'm just saying.
Twitter poll me.
No. I mean, an accurate Twitter poll. I'm here for Chris Durkin playing every single day of the week.
We got to start pulling together all of the things that hashtag Team Sam is for, and then we'll do a poll at the end of the season and see what your party platform is.
Sure, fine, as long as this is not one of them.
Well, one really exciting thing.
This is going to be my rise to U.S. soccer president.
Well, one really exciting thing that we do have to look forward to, including the NFL draft, but that's a different show. Starting tomorrow, the eMLS tournament special kicks off on FS1 Sundays at 7 p.m. So really excited to see how this plays out, and something for us to actually bring back a post-game show. So next Sunday is week 2 of the tournament, but it's DC United's entry, and they'll be playing against the New England Revolution. The format of this, to me, is fascinating. It's a 2-legged fixture where the MLS players face off, and then the eMLS players on each team face off. They take aggregate scoring, and the winner moves on. And so next Sunday we'll be doing a show instead of our usual Saturday slot during the hiatus, and we'll be coming at you post game after DC United take on the New England Revolution. Guys, I've only watched a little bit of FIFA, and most of the time it's been when I lost and handed the controller off to someone else. So, like, what should I be expecting when really good people, or potentially in the MLS players, maybe not really good people, what is this going to be like?
Well, before Joshua jumps in, I just think the player selection is interesting. It's Paul and Mo, right? And just from what we heard from Griffin, and then what we heard from Fisher, I don't know. That's just an interesting pick for me. But I think Joshua is definitely the most well versed in FIFA 2020. So let's just let him run with this segment, and we can call it a day.
I won't take over it that much, but I did watch this weekend, and I made Sam watch it too. Trent Alexander-Arnold played Vinicius Jr. on like FS2, and I stayed in. It was fascinating. They were both like pretty decent. I don't know if Paul, like you said, John, we talked to players and we talked to Paul, and Paul didn't mention FIFA at all, and none of the players have mentioned Paul playing FIFA. So Mo might have his work cut out for him, but I'm excited. I'll tune in regardless.
If you think Paul's not practicing right now, you're a fool. Like, he's gonna come out and be like the best player in the whole tournament.
For me, I'm just interested to see how Paul sets it up. Is he going to put himself at the? You playing the number 10? Is he on the wing?
Yeah.
I think you can get some insight into how they view the team.
That could be very telling. You're right.
And it's Diego Fagundes, and a player whose gamer tag is JKO for the New England Revolution this weekend.
JKO, interesting. We're gonna have to do some research for that one. But yeah, we were kind of all talking about, how nerdy it is that we're very, very excited to do a post-game show again about an e-sport. We're super excited to be live after all DC United matches, and that we quickly had to pivot, but getting back to our roots is super exciting. But we were kind of joking around, like, do you talk about like the game strategy that they're going to employ, or do you talk about like the gamer strategy? Because I feel like those might be two different things. Like, how do you? And
all of it. The answer is all of it. I want to see if Paul plays himself, because in FIFA he's a cam because he's played it before, and also a right mid. So let's see if he puts himself in that middle spot to get more of himself on the ball. And then I think he could beat Fagundes, because Fagundes has been off and on in his MLS career. Who's to say he's not going to be the same in his FIFA career? But
maybe Benny calls him up and he tells him what lineup to play.
Yeah, consult Ben Olsen for tactical support.
I know that we're real proud of DC United's history, but I would love to see an eMLS trophy going into that trophy.
Right next to the armadillo.
Oh, I love it.
On top of the
I wonder if they'll put a fifth star on and just put like an E on it on the jersey, or at least in the game. Maybe it'll be fascinating. One of the things you mentioned there, Black, was what does Paul do with himself, and it's funny. Of course, the English are doing something very similar to this. I think it's called the Football Staying Home Cup, because they're still on the football's coming home kick. And I did see a viral video. James Madison from Leicester City scored with himself, which was it's pretty cool to see the player score with themselves. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something Paul can pull off.
Yeah, I think interesting is exactly the word for it. And, it'll be super interesting, and I think we're going to try to come at you post-game for all of them. We haven't really talked about that as a group. But, I'm just so excited for it to come back. I'm, confident enough to say it live that I'm very excited to do this.
Yeah, tomorrow night is week 1 of the eMLS tournament on FS1 at 7 p.m., and that does involve Joshua's favoritely named MLS derby, El Tráfico Virtual, Adama Diomande and Chicharito teeing off against one another for the LAFC and LA Galaxy. So this is going to be very interesting, but guys, it's something to look forward to in the world of soccer, so I can't wait.
Same.
Yeah, completely agree. We're going to have to do some scouting and see how it goes.
Yeah, so next week's show, that will be coming to you on Sunday, April 26th, following the eMLS tournament, which hopefully is a couple big wins for the Black and Red. They can do they carry momentum over from before the break? I don't think it works like that. Anyways,
it definitely works like that. Whatever we need to win, I think is how it works.
it's going to be exciting. But thank you guys so much for joining us this week and interacting with the show. We will talk at you really, really soon. So stay safe, and we look forward to talking to you next week, right here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken.
The bad is that everyone is a potential victim. But the good news is that everyone is a potential solution. Sensitize the masses to sanitize. Keep a social distance and quarantine. Stop!
The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted.
Omulwadde wa corona temubuzanyisa bange.
Kila mtu must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted. Discipline and personal hygiene, and make sure you regularly wash your hands. Keep a distance from everyone. Report anything like a symptom. Serious fever is a symptom. Dry cough is a symptom. Walkway tamula is a symptom. Itchy eyes and flu is a symptom.
Abo b'obulwadde bw'ekuuma obutabusiiga bejjemu batannalwala olaga omwoyo gw'eggwanga olabira ku itale abasinga bafudde okubwewala kisingako obujjanjaba. The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted.
Omulwadde wa corona temubuzanyisa bange.
Kila mtu must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted.
The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.